Olivier Ponti, Forwardkeys. You read the figures about the travelers on the aircraft in last years, and you are able to preview what is going to happen next year.
Yes.
But it's not easy in this time we are living now.
First of all, it's not magic, it's a lot of data. It's data that's coming from all the airlines and from the industry so that we can understand who would be flying where and when. This is what Forwardkeys does. And what do we see in the data? Maybe before looking at next year, just looking at this year, because as we have real-time information, we know what's happened until now, and we also have all the booking information regarding what's going to happen until the end of this year, which gives us a pretty good picture of where we stand in terms of travel recovery. On a global scale, travel recovery is still underway, but it's very strongly accelerating in the last 3 months of this year. We have some global regions which are already switching from recovery to growth. This would be the case for Africa and the Middle East, for example. And we do have some regions which are still very much lagging behind but making strong progress, like Asia and the Pacific. The Americas are pretty much back to where they were pre-pandemic. Europe is still coming back, but negatively impacted by the conflict in Ukraine and inflationary pressure. But all in all, while we're reaching the end of the year, we're reaching very similar levels to pre-pandemic levels.
But in this last year, we had two conflicts. One in the last few weeks, one almost 2 years ago, that impact on the air traffic.
This has a negative impact on travel demand, that's for sure, but so far it's rather localized. So when you take a look at the impact of the conflict in Ukraine, you realize that the most direct impact is on neighboring countries, Central, Eastern European countries, Baltic countries, Finland, but the rest of Europe is not that much impacted. Although it still has an important effect on the ability from Asian travelers to reach Europe, as many European airlines in general are not able to fly over Russia. It means that travel times are longer and that the fares are also higher because more fuel is being used. In the case of the recent conflict in Israel, the impact so far is mainly, besides Israel itself, the impact is mainly concentrated on neighboring regions. I'm thinking of Jordan or Egypt, for example, which is very unfortunate for tourism professionals in these regions because they had been going really strong over the past few months.
Asia is really it is important as a lot of travelers, but it's difficult to understand in advance what they are going to do. It's a different culture. So what attracts the Asian tourists?
Asia is a very diverse continent, so you have very different travel patterns and booking patterns, whether you look at China, Japan, South Korea, India. It's truly very diverse. It's not the same profile in terms of visitors, and it's not the same preferences in terms of destination. One thing is sure, people tend to travel mostly within their own region. So a lot of travel from Asia is travel that will benefit other Asian destinations. But when it comes to long haul, I think there's clearly a need for travel professionals to keep a close eye on what's happening in China, which is a market that is reopening and reactivating more slowly than what most tourism professionals would have hoped, but it is reactivating nonetheless. And it's rebuilding air connectivity, which means that it will become easier and more affordable for people to fly than now, where there is still a clear bottleneck. I will also keep an eye on India. India has got a very large population able to engage in activities such as international travel. There's a strong middle class and a strong upper class, which is very eager to discover the world. Now, We've all seen in the news massive investments from Indian airlines like Air India or Indigo in new aircraft, talking hundreds of aircraft, and the biggest order ever in terms of new aircraft or aircraft to be delivered in the coming 5 years. So what this means is that we're going to see probably much more travel from India to the rest of the world, but also from the rest of the world to India, which will make the country more central than what it currently is. So definitely a market with a big potential.
To be attention. We are at the end of the global summit of the Wttc in Rwanda, and they preview that in the future, in the next 10 years, Africa is going to grow up really fast and a lot. But what is the airlines situation here? Do you see the signals of this future of growing up of Africa destination?
When looking at the development of air connectivity in Africa, we can clearly see that on the one hand, long-haul connectivity tends to recover quicker than intra-regional connectivity, but towards the end of this year, both will be either back to 2019 levels in terms of regional connectivity or even above 2019 levels when looking at long-haul connectivity, which means that the future looks pretty bright. Now, being back to 2019 levels in the case of intra-regional connectivity doesn't mean that we're back to an optimal situation. There were still serious issues when it comes to intra-regional connectivity, and African countries still have to deliver on the open sky policy intentions that they had shown a number of years ago. So I think there are still a lot of possibilities in terms of growth, provided countries work collaboratively to develop travel to the continent. Thinking of safaris, for example, are activities that could involve different countries, multi-destination trips. This is what's happening in the Victoria Falls area, for example, where there is a level of regional collaboration between different countries. I think this is something that could be fostered so as to make travel easier, if possible seamless, between one destination and the next in the continent. I think this would enhance the overall attractivity of the continent and therefore benefit also the destinations at country level.
The last question with two words: cheap and luxury. What is the trend of the airlines?
They're betting on more luxury.
More?
Luxury.
Luxury. No low cost. It's going to end.
No, low costs are clearly not going to end. Low costs are still there, but airlines are trying to maximize the revenue of each passenger, and what we can see is that there's a growing interest in premium travel options. So we see more and more people traveling either at the front of the plane or taking a seat with extras, and that makes it possible for airlines to generate more revenue with their passengers.
Okay, thank you, Olivier.
You're welcome.